Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Beauty, also known as The Rich Aunt. We're back with another video. It's a beautiful Sunday, and like I said, this month of October will be dedicated to my corporate fellow buddies, right? So we'll be talking all things corporate. So today I want to dig into my own personal journey, of how I have maneuvered corporate and also maintaining longevity in the company that I'm currently working at, because I've been working there for over a decade now. So today I want to tap into my storytelling mode, just give you a background of what did it take really to get to being where I am today and really maintaining that longevity in the workspace, because being in corporate is not easy. Being in corporate is very challenging, right? But then also being in corporate is very beautiful. You get to grow as a person. You get to learn like the real you in corporate. And today I want us to dig deep into what does it really take, to sustain yourself in corporate. This past week has been very heavy in my heart. There was a consultant at one of our branches that got that got stabbed by a client, and he died on the spot. So now this guy went to work and didn't return home. He died in his workspace, right? And then also there were other news. One guy in Standard Bank also threw himself from the sixth floor and he died in his corporate space, right? And when I was checking a few comments, or rather what conversations are taking place, it is a whole lot. The one guy that got stabbed doing his job, and the one guy that fell off the building, he did it, and people on the comment section, they're talking about mental health, they're talking about all these things which really they do impact in one's life, and I normally hear the term, we're all familiar with it, a toxic work environment or a toxic company, a toxic workspace. And obviously that contributes to one mental stability. And for the longest time, I've always tried to define all those terms for me. What does it mean when I feel that the environment is toxic? How do I define it for myself? And also, after the definition, how do I maneuver around that? So I think when you're in corporate and also in business, just anywhere whereby you need to be present all day, every day, and get the work going, at some point it will affect your mental being, because obviously when we are at work, we are bringing not just the body, but we are bringing everything in us, right? So when I was reading the story of these two guys, it really touched my heart. And I was like, we are facing a lot in corporate. And today I just hope that my story will get to make other people change the perspective about how to go about incorporate. So my journey started on the 2nd of May in 2014, and obviously it started prior before that, right? Because it's me applying for the job, it's me identifying the company that I want to work with, right? When I first heard of Capitec Bank, it was through Generations. At that time, they were doing their advertising via that space. Remember, in those times, Good Generation, there used to be this marketing agency, Ezweni Communications, right? And when Capitec broke into the market, they did their advertising through that company. So Generations was playing, and then at Ezwin Communication, they were putting a pitch and advertising for this bank, right? And it was Capitec, and I felt in love so much with the bank, and that was back in 2000 and like 2004, between 2004 and 2008. I don't remember the years very, vividly, but I tell you, that's when I fell in love with that brand. When they were speaking about simplicity, the one thing that when I was watching Generations, because the other thing is I studied marketing, right? So I fell in love with marketing through Generations. Then I fell in love with the company that I work with through Generations. So before I worked for Capitec Bank, I have loved the brand so much. They spoke about simplicity being the ultimate sophistication. And at the age that I was at, to be able to talk about this line, to say this bank's slogan is simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And I just fell in love so much, with everything that they do. And I opened my first account at Capitec Bank, and the desire to want to work there grew more and more in me, right? So I spoke wanting to work at Capitec into existence. Fast forward in 2014, I was working for TiVo, right? I was a part-time promoter there, and my best friend was my manager there, right? So during quiet days, we'd just sit down and chit chat, and like we'd talk about, okay, we are here right now, but where do you see yourself, And I told my friend that, I want to work for Capitec Bank. And we were working in Montana Park, and there was it's just opposite Colonnade Shopping, right? And there was a Capitec Bank there. So in the conversation, I told my friend that I would love to work there, because I fell in love with the brand, I fell in love with the uniform, and just everything about Capitec, like everything about it made me so happy, right? So my friend at the time, she was using NetBank, and she was complaining about fees, and I was like, no, you must go to Capitec. I presented this account to her, and she was like, okay, good, I will go to Capitec Bank and open the account. Then she opened the account. Remember, we had the conversation prior when I told her that I want to work there. So when she went to open that account, she engaged with the consultant that was assisting her, and she asked questions about, okay, if one wants to work here, what must happen, right? And then they gave her a number that, no, you must just SMS your ID number to this number, right? It was a short code. Then my friend came with the number, and she was like, guess what? I got a way in for us, go Capitec. So they gave me this number. They say that we must SMS our IDs, and then we must just follow the process, right? And then we SMS'd. Right, and then a few weeks later, I got a call to say I must come write an assessment. I went. When I tell you guys, when I went to write that assessment, it was full. Like it was like we were auditioning for idols, right? So currently now those assessments are written online, but previously we used to go to they would send you a location to a conference room, and then we all gather there, and then we are going to write this assessment, right? And the words on the street were like, those assessments, you must really be smart, because like 50 people would go a day and only 3 or 4 people would pass the assessments. And I was like, okay, let me just take my chances, right? Then I went. That was the 21 or 22-year-old me at that time, right? I went and I went to write this assessment. And when I got there, guys, I think we were a group between 50 and 60 people, and you could hear when others speak, they had this, you could, oh, Gililich's boy, man. And I'm just a typical girl from Soshanguve, and really when I looked at these people, I was like, yo. And they did say that you would start as a larger group, but only a few would be selected. And I really looked at myself. I was like, will I really be part of the few, right? Then I told myself that, but I want this so bad. So I'm going to give it my best. And guys, I walked into that conference room. We started with the first assessment. So I think it was 4 assessments that we were writing. So you write the first one, then you go out, they mark, and then they call those that have passed. Now the number kept going down and down and down, right? It got smaller and smaller and smaller. So I passed the first round, passed the second one, the third one, and the last one. And guys, I tell you, the group of people that I saw there, at the end, it was just, I think we were 4 or 5 that were left that passed the assessment. And that's when I saw that, hi man, God can really do it for me. Guys, I wrote the assessments, I passed, they took my fingerprints, and they were like, okay, there's a position at Colonnade Shopping. Now, remember, that's where I sent my friend to open the account. That's where we got the number, right? And they were like, yeah, there's a post in Colonnade. Do you know Colonnade? And I was like, yeah, I know it very well. You know, and then there was like, how far is it from? I'm like, currently I'm working there, so I know how to get to Colonnade, and it's not very difficult from Soshanguve to Colonnade, you know? And they're like, okay, so the position is based in that branch, but then you will be called for an interview whereby you'll be interviewed by a few branch managers and a regional manager. And I was like, okay, cool. So they're like, you'll wait for a call. And I waited. It didn't take so long. I got the call. I was invited to Pretoria North. It was, in the Pretoria North branch. And I went there, and then I was interviewed by this other white lady. Her name was Jeanette de Klerk. She was my first regional manager. And this other guy, Zbu, right? Zbu interviewed me. And it was just the two of them. And they made me feel so comfortable. And the interview flowed. Then they said, we like you, you know, but let's see what other candidates got to offer us. Then they were like, HR will call you should you have passed this interview. I was like, okay, cool. I went back home, I prayed. You know, if there's one thing that has sustained me in corporate, is prayer. You see, prayer, for me, it has worked. This whole 10 years, every step of it, it was prayer, prayer, prayer. And guys, I came back home, I prayed. You know, I believed God that, you know what, this is my breakthrough. You know, I already saw myself in that uniform. Plus, they used to wear this beautiful scarves. Like, I saw myself. And I believed, right? I had faith that God would open that door for me. Guys, it took so long to get the call back. Ne? So now, because they told me already what the position is. So the position was a client service champion. So now this is the person that stands at the door to welcome people, right? And they told me that that's the position and which branch I'm going to work at. So mind you, remember, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm working in Montana. So because I'm still waiting for the call back, I'm still going to work. So I'm still going to my part-time job, and every time when I get to Montana, like the branch, it's in Colonnade Shopping, it's just opposite the street. So I would get off the bus, go Colonnade, right? And I would walk through Capitec to check if there's no one, because now they are not calling me, right, to check if is there anyone appointed. You know, maybe I didn't make it to the interview. And every time I walked past, I saw that there's no one, because I also started being familiar with faces, so that when there's someone new, I would see that that post was filled in. So I was basically stalking it, right? Then I would every day scout, okay, right? You can imagine I always looked forward to Thursday, because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm at home. I only go to work, to my part-time job on Thursday. So I always looked forward to Thursday, because I want to check, is there anyone at my job post? Already I claimed it to be mine. And then days went by, weeks went by, no call. Ne? Then I tapped into my prayer, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my position by fire, by force. These people are not calling me, right? And remember, they will tell you, don't call us, we'll call you. Then this one time, I passed by the branch. Then I see where I have to work, there's no one. So basically, it's something that I see now. You know, when there's nobody specifically for that post, we'll just rotate around it. Now that day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to claim that position. I walked into the branch. Walked into the branch. I'm standing by the Hello Point. That is my future job post. and nobody is attending to me, right? They were at the back office. By now I know where they were, but previously I didn't know where's everyone here. But I got there and I prayed, guys. I prayed. I plead the blood of Jesus. This is my position. That time I'm praying in my heart. Then this lady, Precious, walks towards me to say, hi, how are you? I'm good. Like, no, I just need a bank statement. I didn't even need the bank statement, guys. And she was like, okay, please follow me. We went to, they used to have a cashier side at that time. Then we got there. Then she called my ticket. Then she was like, how many months? While we are having the conversation, I'm already saying, this one, my fellow colleague, this one, I'm praying still in my heart. I'm like, no, just give me 3 months bank statement. And when I walked out, I was like, it is done. This position is mine. Nobody has filled it. Few days later, I get a call from HR. Hi, Beauty, how are you? I'm good. Oh my God, we've been looking for your documents. So now the person that interviewed you resigned. So documents were scattered all over the place, right? So it is only today that we actually knew that we appointed someone for Colonnade branch, right? So we're just calling you to say that you got the job. And I was like, okay. Then they were like, yeah, so you're going to start on the 2nd of May because the 1st of May is a holiday. Prayer opened doors for me. So it was not just the assessments. It was not about passing the assessments, passing the interview. I still had to put in some form of work. And I put in my faith. I prayed for that position. I was appointed, and that's how I started my journey at Capitec Bank. And I was a client service champion. I was earning, when I started, they were offering 4,800, and it was a lot. Guys, where I was working, I was earning 700 per fortnight, right? So basically this is more than double my salary. And guys, I was so happy, like very happy. And today I'm earning way more than where I started. And by saying this is that you must always trust the process, right? You must always, trust that humble beginnings will always get you somewhere. And to me, that 4,800, guys, back in 2014, it was a lot, especially for a 22-year-old. I don't have kids. I don't have responsibilities. So that money was mine. Payday would get positive balance in my account, right? And that's how I started my journey. I was a client service champion for about 6 to 7 months. And then I got appointed as a consultant in November the same year, right? Then, part of our training was that you're going to go to Cape Town for 2 weeks. My girl, I was like, look at my God. I was like, look at my God. So I trained in the branch. Then my first flight ever in my life was through my employer. Like, I will forever be grateful. I stayed in a hotel for 2 weeks. 2 full weeks in Stellenbosch, living the best life, girl, and even in that 2 weeks, I was really inspired, because I loved this company. I loved it from a distance. So I have always been grateful. I have always been grateful for Capitec, always. I keep my gratitude on 100. No matter what happens, I am not one employee that you'll ever find me complaining about the company, the processes, or anything. I always kept a grateful heart. And I worked then as a consultant for 7 years, right? And I think after I hit my 5 years, I started applying for the next position, which was an assistant branch manager. So I think I got declined 8 times. Or 7 times, right? And it really didn't work for me. Obviously, you know what reject does to you. I got rejected. I would go to interviews, be given feedback that really didn't make sense. And something said in me, you know what? You are too comfortable in this area. It's time that you go back home. Go and work in your own community. And I was like, where does this come from? Now that is a conversation, and I believe today that it was a conversation that was happening between me and God. And God said, there's no growth for you in this area, in this region, And I was like, oh, okay. And that voice grew louder and louder to say, go back home. How many branches do you pass by to get to your branch on a daily basis? And guys, I must tell you, my life was in Montana. Like, my life was there. I met my first very, very serious, boyfriend there. I made my best friend, I met her there. And all the other friends that I have, I met them in Montana. So my life was based there. Like, Bona, you understand? Like, in social media, there was nothing for me. I didn't have friends, Mohaye. My life was there because I'm in 6 days, I am that side. So I built beautiful friendships and I didn't see myself coming back. But this thing kept getting louder and louder to say, you need to go back home. Then after one of the interviews, I was rejected. Then there's this lady, she is my boss's boss, and she was like, why don't you take a transfer, to Soshanguve? I manage those branches and I have seen how you handle yourself. Sometimes I would do startup meetings and she was like, I like you, and she was like, okay, what was the feedback given to you? And she was like, I can work with that. That's what I want in my region. And that's when I got a confirmation to say, okay, I have to move, Then I asked my regional manager then to say, okay, I need a transfer. I need to go back home. And she was like, but why? I was like, no, I just want to go back home. I want to work closer to home. I'm tired of this traveling and all that, right? Then I came back, I got a branch closer to home, very close for that matter. And I didn't want this close. Like, my first branch that I worked at, it was just like here. When I step outside, I can see the complex. That's how close it was. And I didn't want that close. But there's always something when God places you in a certain position or a certain branch, a certain environment. And I stepped into that branch and I didn't see people that spoke like me. I remember in my first few months when I opened an account, like, there was this other consultant who was like, hey, Beauty Warasa. Like, you really don't have to bother yourself by explaining all those things, because obviously from where I came from, like, when we sell, when we open the account, you would do it fully. And that guy was like, there's people, like, they can't hear what you are saying. You are just making noise. And I didn't let him get to me. Like, I continued because that's how I did things. And guys, I had clients returning to want to be assisted by me. So there was, that thing, I got something from being that side, right? And I brought it here and it made me stand out as a consultant. And in 2020 or 2021, during lockdown, one of the branch manager that I was working for, he passed away, right? He was shot at home during the night, and it was on Sunday when he was shot. We came to work on Monday. The lady that told me that I must take the transfer, she was there with my then RM. And they came to broke the sad news to us to say, okay, Baba Mahlangu is no more. He was shot yesterday, and I was like, what? And in that process, then we started to put together the memorial, and because I've always been well-spoken, they said, okay, Beauty, can you please be the MC for the memorial? And I was like, okay, cool. And it was me emceeing that memorial that made the lady that said I must transfer to remember me. I gave it my best because I loved my branch manager. Like, I loved Ntate Mahlangu with everything in me. Like, I remember when they told us the news, we couldn't work on that day. So they just came to tell us the news, and then the branch was closed for 2 to 3 days. And then when I came back home, when I was driving to home, my car was like this on the way because I was crying. Then, okay, a few days later, we put together the memorial and I was the MC and I spoke so well in the memorial. And my current boss's boss said to me, "You speak so well. Like, you speak so well. And I need this in management." And she was like, "Please work on your performance development plan and let's talk, you know?" And that's when I started working on my PDP and I started applying. This side, I applied once. Went to the interview, I got the promotion. Remember that side, I applied so many times and I was rejected. I applied, you know, and even the branch manager that passed away always said to me, "Beauty, there's something. You can be a leader. You know, there's something in you." And I know right now when he's looking down from heaven, he can really see that, you know what, he was right. So I was promoted. Phakathi COVID, like in that difficult moment that we had as a country, I got my promotion. Remember, companies were shutting down. Hence, I will forever be grateful for my company. They promoted me during that very difficult season. During the pandemic, I got my promotion. And I was like, my God works in wonders, right? And even in that, I prayed for it. You know, I had to make sure that I'm ready for what I'm getting myself into. And 1 year, 8 months later, then I applied for, okay, I didn't apply. The branch that I was in, there was a BM vacancy, right? I didn't think I was ready for that. I thought it was too soon, right? Because there were other assistant branch managers that have been assistant branch managers for over 5 years, and I was just a year and 8 months. So really, I thought that there are people for this particular position. You know, I'm still new, I'm still learning my role, you know, and then they advertised the post, then people applied. Then my RM was like, I saw the people that applied, but I didn't see your name. I was like, me? Like me? It's like, yes, you. He was like, Beauty, you're already doing this job, because I was in the branch alone for 8 months. And he was like, you're already doing this job. What do you mean me? You know? I was like, okay, no. And he was like, but unfortunately the applications have closed and you didn't apply. I was like, maybe this one is not mine. But now that you said that I actually have this in me, I will try next time with another branch. And people wrote assessments and they didn't make it. They had to re-advertise the post, right? Excited as I was, now I have this confidence. I went and applied. I wrote the assessments. I didn't make it, guys, because I've written assessments many times in Capitec and they've always been the same. Like before, like a year, 8 months later, like prior, I wrote an assessment and I passed it. And I was like, it's one of those, you know. I wrote the assessment and I failed. And I didn't understand, how did I fail that assessment, you know? And that failure, like, I think that was the first time I failed in my life. And I was like, I failed. Like, it hit it so hard. And the fact that now people knew that I failed because the position had to be re-advertised again. And people wrote, a few made it. They went through the interview, but they didn't cut it in the interview, right? And guys, I made peace with the fact that this one is not mine, right? And then one morning I walked into the branch and I opened the branch and we got the team award report. Now the team award report shows that we are number 1 in the region. And I'm like, we are number 1. That time we don't have a branch manager. The branch is operating with an assistant branch manager. And I realized that, but I'm so good at this, you know? And then I started to have a desire. Now remember, I'm having a desire after I have failed the assessment. And it was just at that moment that I changed my mind that I actually want to become a branch manager. So even if it was not for this particular position, I actually want this because I know that I can do it, right? Then I prayed about it. I put it on my vision board to say, next year, I want to become a branch manager. So I'm really going to work on my development to you know, and also practice those assessments better next time. And guys, they struggled to find a branch manager. Now my boss's boss had to come all the way from Nelspruit to come and see me, right? I remember the day so vividly. It was on the 10th of August, and they came to the branch. My regional manager told me that we're having visitors, right? They are coming to see the branch and they're coming to see you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I woke up, it was just a normal day. My regional manager sends me a text to say, there are people coming. Are you ready? I'm like, Kanti, what's supposed to happen? You know? And that morning I prayed, right? And I was like, okay, whatever it is that they came for, can they please see it? That was my prayer that morning. And I got to the branch, I opened the branch, made the branch ready, and around 10, 11, they walked in. Now it's my boss's boss and another boss. And they say, okay, Peter, how are you? I'm good. They greet my consultants. Then we go to the back office. Then we're sitting down, right? And they were like, yeah, so when you failed the assessment, but you are already doing the job and you're doing it so right. So we want to see if we cannot at some point override this, that you go and write again or something must be done. But they were like, please show us what you have done. Like, show. Like, yeah, just take us through what is it that you did so different in the 8 months that you were standing in as a branch manager. And it was only the next day that I realized that that was actually my interview. And the next day, I get an SMS. There's a credit check that's been done on my profile. Then I open credit score, like Capitec Recruitment. I'm like, okay, what's happening here? I went, then I checked my success factors. I could see that an application that was declined and closed was now reopened, and then it had a status that pending review. And I was like, it can only be God, right? And I jumped part of the stories whereby I want to show someone to say that, with prayer, God can make sure that other processes are not put in place when it comes to you. There was a time I had a shortage of 12,000 something, right? And I was in my early years of being a consultant, and I had to have lost my job that year, right? Because the process and the policy in place said that if you have a shortage of more than 3,000, that is a dismissal offense, right? And I saw God come through for me at that moment, whereby process was changed for me. It happened when I got appointed as a branch manager. Process was relooked for me, right? And then it happened those many years ago, whereby I had a shortage, and even the person that was doing my disciplinary interview, she was like, are you sure you want to go through with this? Like, they gave me, like they said, you can resign, we don't have to do all this. And I was like, but I didn't take the money. And the regional manager said to me, I've never lost a case when it comes to shortage. Mama, you're not going to make it. And I was like, okay, let's give it a try. I'm not going to back up right now. And that moment, that time took lots of prayers. Like, we prayed with my grandmother, because they know me better, right? God knows me. I was like, I knew that I didn't take this money. There was a finger error. The client was depositing 1,300, and I put 13,000, and the money in the bank was 1.3. So there was a shortage, and it was a lot of money, right? And I went through with the inquiry because I knew that I was innocent. My God knew that I'm innocent, and I saw God changed process for me. I went through the inquiry, guys, it wasn't easy. Like, I felt like I was a criminal, because remember, at first I had to go through the lie detector, so that they can really find out what I really didn't take the money. And I never stopped loving my job. The fact that at some point, I was in a room with a forensic investigator, And I was interrogated to say that I took the money, And guys, that moment, it was so bad. Let me tell you, this video is getting so long. At that moment, I just put in an application to buy a car, right? The car was approved. I test drive the car. It was a Spark, a Chevrolet Spark, right? I was born, that girl. I had to cancel that whole application. I was like, okay, there might be a chance that I might not make it, but I didn't want the car anymore. Like the guy from the car dealership was calling me to say, Sister, the car is ready for you to pick up to come sign. And I didn't go. It's like, no, I can't anymore, because there was another part in me that said, okay, this might happen that I might be dismissed. But at least I will be dismissed, but I would have said my case, And guys, God came through for me. Like, he came through for me. I went through that disciplinary. Then they were like, okay, we're going to charge you with a final written warning and you just have to pay the shortage back. And I was so grateful that I'm not losing my job. I could have lost my job, but God came through for me. I remember that morning. Now, the interview was in the branch that I started working at. Now, at that time, I was not working at Colonnade Shopping. They opened another branch. It was in Colonnade Retail, right? So it was also a walking distance. I remember that morning, I went to work, right, to the branch. The disciplinary interview was around 10, Then I went to the branch. It was just a normal day. It kind of felt like it might be my last day, And when I went to the interview, when you have faith in God, it was my faith that carried me. The team that I was working with at that time, they were like, oh, why don't you take your bags and everything so that should you be dismissed, you don't have to come back here. And I was like, guys, I'm going to come back. And I'm going to come back still employed, And they didn't believe it. When I went to that disciplinary interview, I took my phone and I took my earphones, right? I was putting my earphones on, then I was listening to this song. To this day, I love that song. It was by, who's that guy? Sfiso Ncwane. Favor is my name. And I prayed, I sang, I prayed, I sang, I prayed, I sang. It's like, favor, today, God, you are going to favor me. And to cut the long story short, 10 years later, I am here, right? I have been promoted twice. I am living the moment that I always knew. When I was studying marketing management, when I walked into Capitec, that management course, like the management semester that we did, I knew how I'm going to apply this the time I become a branch manager. I knew it in me that one day I will become a branch manager. And simply because I saw women doing it and I knew that I was more than capable. So, when I sit and I reflect at this moment, I knew that, we must always trust the process. I could have resigned that time when I was told that, when the regional manager then told me that she never lost any case, especially when it came to deposit shortage. I could have given up that time, right? That conversation was not nice. That's what we refer to being toxic, right? But then she was just doing her job, right? She wanted to save me the drama, and even to like later, like now she's no longer with the company, but even after the disciplinary interview, she was like, I knew it the first time I saw you that you didn't take that money. Right? But the conversation that happened at that time, it was like she was saying, I took the money, but it was process. So when you're in corporate, trust the process. The process will take place. Policies will be applied to you. But when you pray and when you get the work done, remember my branch manager position, I got it because I did the work. Period. Because sometimes you might not nail the interview, but you can nail the job. But I had to do the job even when I was not yet appointed as a branch manager. But I stepped into that role and I gave it my best. And that's what I want to leave with someone, that every single day, people are watching you. People can talk for you, right? When you put in the work, when you pray, when your character is right, You know, when the company knows that you're a great asset. At that time, they knew that should they lose me, I'm a great asset. And I started seeing myself like that. So see yourself as that asset in the company. And always take yourself back to the why. Why did I send my CV here? So every now and then, I always need to remind myself as to where did all this start? It was a desire in my heart. And God worked with me. It's not everyone that identifies a company that they want to work for and they get the job there. But then I knew that God is with me in this journey. So I know that everyone that's in corporate, guys, they are doing their job. They are doing their mandate. Sometimes someone will make you sign a final written warning. They are doing their job. Much as they knew that I didn't take the money. Guys, I had to pay for money that I didn't take, but that is process. That's how it works, right? I had to sign a final written warning. That is still on my profile even today. But regardless, I am here. But it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of prayer. It takes a lot of your character and centering yourself in all days to say that this is my job. I'm an asset to the company. And you will see the years will go by and favor will be upon you. Guys, my journey was not, all beautiful, all flowers, no, it was hard. It was very hard, but I had to put my best foot forward, and I always had to listen to the inner voice, that voice that said, move from the region that you are at. It's not going to work for you. Go to this region, go back home and empower your fellow Soshanguve people. And I know ever since I got into management role, I've made it so attractive. A lot of people started applying for those roles, and a lot of people still get promotion. And it's because I have taken it with so much grace. I remember when I was an assistant branch manager, that position, I boniwi kaselo. Like nobody takes that position serious. You are just seen as someone who is between management and the consultants. I had to go through all that because it is process. So remember that in corporate, guys, it is process, 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 and you got to trust the process. You have to. But one thing is that never forget who you work with. Never forget who created you. Never forget who created the people that you are even working for or working with. Pray for your people. Pray for the people that lead you. I always mentioned names of all my leaders. Even today, I still pray for my leader. Even today, I still pray for the people that I lead. I try by all means to make sure that my branch is never said to be a very toxic branch. I don't want the people that I work with. And guys, it took hard work. When I got to that branch, it took so much hard work. But hard work has paid off today. I'm a living testimony to say that you can make it in corporate. You can make it in corporate. It's just that every single day you need to remind yourself of the why I'm waking up and going there. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that this inspires someone. Mental health is real. Take care of yourself. Have a gratitude list. Wake up in the morning. Pray before you go and enter into the workspace. Give yourself an hour to center this thing, to say, you know what, you pray for your day. You exercise to get your mind very ready for the day. Just do all those things and you will see. Read books that will tell you how to survive in corporate. I've read a whole lot of books in my life. I'm still reading books even today, just for me to be able to survive in corporate, because honey, we are all soldiers, whether in business or in corporate. We're all fighting a battle, and that battle is poverty. So never forget that. Never forget the fact why you are waking up and going to work. It's simply because you want a better life for yourself. But why, when we get to work, then you tend to forget and even put it in the hands of other people to decide your future and your fate for you? It doesn't work like that. Remember your why. Have yourself a great weekend. See you again next week with another video.